Hey there, I'm Pete Townsend, and this is Money Never Sleeps. We look inside the minds of entrepreneurs and at the crossover of startups, enterprise, finance, technology, and life as we know it. Before we get started this week, just a heads up that ETH Dublin is back again to bring Ireland on chain with a hackathon and conference this May 23rd to 25th. And the ETH Dublin team announced big news last week with the addition of Ethereum co-founder Vitalik Buterin to the speaker lineup. So come for the crypto and stay for the crack.
Money never sleeps, pal.
This week, I'm joined by my good friend and returning guest co-host, Alejandro Gutierrez. We dive into some of the biggest developments in Web3 and TradFi coming together, what I like to call worlds colliding, from the momentum behind ETH Dublin and the Solana Talent Hub in Ireland to the rapid expansion of tokenized real-world assets. We also break down Robinhood's move into prediction markets and why the idea of a FIFA coin is as bad as it sounds, with a big hat tip to Pet Barisha. And of course, we couldn't ignore the latest moves in the regulatory space, as well as some unexpected headlines, like a sitting US president speaking at a crypto conference. So, buckle up and let's get into it. Here's my conversation with Alejandro Gutierrez, all right here on Money Never Sleeps. Alejandro Gutierrez, how are you, my friend?
Really good, Pete. Really happy to be here again.
Yeah, thanks for coming back. This is my first time in, 8 years, I think, doing this podcast under the weather, right? I had done some before when I had like a head cold, but my family got hit hard with COVID this week. We're on the upswing, hopefully. All the kids are home from school today. 2 of the 3 of them were home yesterday. All 3 of them are home today. My parents are turning up next week from the US. So it's like, we got to get people getting healthy.
You have to. Like, I was wondering if this was coming from the Crypto Mondays last week.
Yeah, it might have been. It might have been. Who knows? Yeah, we did do our big Crypto Mondays Ireland kickoff event powered by Techstars last Monday at Toners in Dublin. It was a great crowd. We had 5 of the 6 startups from the Techstars Web3 class of 2025 got up and pitched their elevator pitch. So it was a good night. We brought people together across Web2 and Web3, across crypto and TradFi. And I think everyone had a good time. And it was great to do that first event. And looking forward to doing the next one, which will expectedly, I'm going to be talking to Ian tomorrow, so I'll figure this out. But next one in Belfast, right? So
fantastic.
It's an all island initiative, as we call it, right?
That's great. That's great to hear.
Yep. So it was a good night. Thanks to everyone who joined us. And again, it was great to see, because we purposely did this to bring people together across all different verticals and say, listen, this is just the next version of the internet. Let's just embrace it and move forward. And all these relationships that all of us have from through the years are meaningful to this and meaningful to me. And I wanted to kind of give people a view into how this all works. And I think it was effective. So looking forward to the next one.
It was a great event, good mix. As you say, it was a lot of people from traditional finance, people from the fintech side, a lot of crypto heads. It was pretty good. Good mix.
And one of the best things was Kalen was there talking about ETH Dublin, or, was handing out cards for ETH Dublin. He asked me in advance. I'm like, dude, absolutely. Whatever you can do to spread the word, please bring your ETH Dublin cards. And he got a picture of me walking in with 8 pizzas that I just got from Cirillo's next door. Might have been 10 pizzas, actually. And somehow he got me with this kind of mysterious look on my face, a quizzical look on my part, perhaps. And he put it up on X, and with the post, when you realize you could have got a grant from Pizza DAO. I'm like, dude, I didn't even think of that. Like, I forgot that Pizza DAO was
That's a great point. That's a great point, actually. I saw the post and I laughed a lot, actually. So it was pretty well executed.
Yeah, it was very good. So, but speaking of ETH Dublin, there's been big news on that front, right? Do you want to maybe share that?
Yeah, so there has been like a Dublin confirmed on Monday. Vitalik will be part of the 3rd edition of ETH Dublin, which is amazing for the Irish ecosystem, and well done to the guys at ETH Dublin, the team at ETH Dublin, and I think this is going to just finally put Ireland in the map from the crypto perspective.
Definitely, and Vitalik Buterin definitely has some star power in terms of attracting additional speakers as well. So now that this news is out, because that's May 23rd to May 25th, this year.
Correct, yeah.
And in Dublin. And
the first big speaker was Stani. Stani was the first one, actually. He announced it himself, which was pretty interesting. I assume out of these, there are going to be way more, I will call.
Yeah. And for those who may not be aware of Stani.
So he's the CEO of Avara, and Avara is, just probably better known for Aave. He has been part of Friends, and they have done so much in the space.
Yeah, so I think that's great. This will be the third time ETH Dublin is run, obviously in Ireland, and let's keep it going. And having someone like Vitalik coming here to speak just totally is it's a big deal getting him here. So congrats again to the ETH Dublin team for doing that.
It'll be really interesting.
Absolutely. So bringing all that together is kind of like worlds colliding. And some of that, for me, that at Crypto Mondays Ireland was worlds colliding, bringing together kind of the old school TradFi crowd that I had been part of for about 20 years, and then the crypto crowd for the last 10 years for me. And I told a story about this to someone that night about worlds colliding and about the Seinfeld episode from way back when, where George Costanza was very concerned that his life with his new girlfriend, Susan, and his life with his friends were colliding. And that Susan was making plans with his friend, Elaine, to go out to a show or something like that. And he's like, listen, my worlds are colliding, that, boyfriend George and friend George just can't exist. And I'm saying, no, screw that. There can be one world here. So let's go ahead with that. But there's been a number of stories that came out in the past week or so that are pointing to these worlds colliding between fintech and CeFi and DeFi, as well as obviously TradFi. And I just wanted to step through a few of these and get your thoughts on them as well. So
it's so interesting, Pete, because we have been talking about, we always mention that this line is going to get blurrier and blurrier, right? Like that line between fintech, traditional finance, DeFi, and now we're seeing it. So it's really interesting to see unfolding it, especially when we have been calling these for a long time.
Yep, absolutely. And I mean, it makes so much sense. And the first one, Robinhood, right? They're rolling out prediction market contracts. And that is not that Robinhood's a startup anymore, but that's kind of consumer platform 101, right? Which is look to where your customers may be spending their time if they're not on your platform. They've gone to prediction markets like Polymarket, and they are backing their predictions with some money on Polymarket. So Robinhood are saying, well, listen, if there are customers, and there's probably also some of the users of Polymarket that aren't using Robinhood, that they may be able to get. But I think this is about, hey, the regulatory landscape is opening up in the US. We can put in place these new products and new product features that can attract more users or keep our existing users and having them spend more time on Robinhood. So let's go ahead and do it. Just seeing them move in this direction. They've already been in crypto for a while, but expanding out to prediction markets, I thought was a really interesting move for them.
It's pretty interesting how the change on that, or the field from the regulatory perspective, immediately kind of generates some new wave of innovation, especially in America. So if someone like Robinhood is starting to look at these kind of products, right? Because they are more comfortable with the regulation, try to imagine what the smaller startups are going to be coming by the end of 2025. I think it's going to be a huge explosion on what we'll call like DeFi renaissance. And I can see a big play with payments. Like we have been discussing this bit, like everything has to do with agentic payments is going to be a huge explosion in 2025.
Definitely. And I think people aren't at the races on that yet, that they need to kind of get up the curve. So tons and tons of stuff happening and seeing more things that, are kind of almost coming from the other side, which is that where you have the ETF providers. It was announced by Canary Capital that they filed paperwork with the SEC to launch a SWI exchange traded fund. Right? Okay, great. SWI moving up as a blockchain protocol to the point where enough interest and enough volume to launch an ETF. But to me, it's not just SWI itself. It's that they had also filed ETF applications with the SEC for Dogecoin, Solana, and XRP. And what we now have is an opportunity for institutions that weren't comfortable holding crypto directly or having a custody provider hold it for them and dealing with that. They can now get access to these markets through instruments that they're totally used to with ETFs. And I'd like to see this perhaps how will the asset managers, the wealth managers out there start constructing some allocations? And how are they going to be defining their allocations? And I know some are already doing this perhaps on this side of the pond with Wisdom Tree being in this a little bit longer, 21 Shares being in this a little bit longer with exchange traded products. But how will the US market start doing this? And where wealth managers are saying, we're going to sell you an allocation of access to these 10 ETFs that are representative of the crypto markets using different allocations, and to see how they do that, right? Because on the other side, we have crypto treasuries, blockchain treasuries, foundation treasuries on the DeFi side, and that where they're making some investment decisions on where to place their treasuries and how to do that. And just to see how these two areas stack up, because I think there's a huge opportunity on that side. I was talking to a blockchain protocol the other day, and it was like, listen, we'd love to have some exposure here in our treasury that was kind of somewhat more professionally managed. And we're now seeing an opportunity to do this. It would be wacky, right? If a blockchain protocol and a treasury behind that said, you know what, we're going to go with this wealth manager who's telling us what allocation to do to back up our treasury, right? Rather than just saying, hey, we'll do 60% BTC, we'll do 30% ETH, and 10% everything else. I think there's some more creeping into that remaining 40%. It'd be crazy to see how this evolves.
That's properly worlds collide, right?
It is totally colliding. And it should happen.
But it should happen. But it's really interesting because we tend to forget a lot of the times the people that are managing the treasuries of a lot of these foundations, but there are people that have been, or they are coming from the traditional finance space. That's where the expertise was coming from, right? And I wouldn't be surprised for those foundations to just probably start putting money outside the crypto space and put it into the traditional world because it makes more sense. Well, in a way, what was happening with treasury bills is that what was the best return 2 years ago? It wasn't in the DeFi space.
No.
It was in treasury bills. And that's where everybody moved.
Yeah, I know. Another sign of the apocalypse, if that is worlds colliding, was that front page, leading story on CoinDesk at 7 p.m. last night, our time, GMT, was Fed holds rate steady. And fine, that is the news. The Fed decided to hold rates steady. And we saw an initial drop in BTC. It was like, yes, this is a sign of worlds colliding. The very leading story of the prime crypto media outlet is leading with Fed holds rate steady, because now we have this alignment taking place between the fluctuations in the prices of crypto and what's going on at the macroeconomic level, right? So, that was just a quick referential point. So I'm not going to get into the detail on what the macroeconomic factors are at play here, because I've said this before. I need a whiteboard to do that. And we're not going to do a whiteboard discussion of macro today, are we?
You're right.
So we're seeing this move quite fast. And we always knew this was going to happen. And it's almost like, what do they say? Slowly, and then all of a sudden, right? We just see this hitting. But we're still, just to temper my own enthusiasm a bit, is that we're still, if we look at rwa.xyz, which is the real world assets market monitor, that we are at 18 billion in tokenized real world assets on chain across everything right now, across the industry. And there's about 12 billion of that in private credit. Looks like 4.6 billion in US Treasury debt, which we know are on Hashnote, their USYC, which was just bought by Circle, but also then BITL, which is BlackRock's treasury fund on chain. And then commodities are in third place just behind that at 1.2 billion. So this is still a small scale.
When we compare it,
right?
It's tiny.
It is, but it's been, the spike has been impressive over the last year to 18 months. And if you look at the global asset management market, that's at like 150 trillion, I think, at this stage. So this is just a drop in the bucket, but the pace at which it's moving is encouraging.
And there have been really interesting studies coming out of it. I don't know, you remember last year, the guys from Centrifuge released the study on the findings on the Black Tower fund that they have been running for a year. And the economy at which you can run one of these, like call it decentralized funds, it is just staggering. 98% cheaper to run a fund with DeFi tools that actually run in the traditional way.
Yeah, it does make a big difference. And the hardest thing that trying to get something to market on the basis of it will save you time operationally and it's a more efficient trade isn't going to win the market share. What will win the market share is that, listen, this route to market will help you to sell more of your assets, to sell more of the investment vehicles that you are managing and sponsoring. And you need to be able to reach new markets, and just where your total addressable market as a wealth manager, as an asset manager, as an investment manager includes the ability to form capital globally. And you could do this on chain. But I think when you're looking at regulated markets right now, I don't think they would take it upon themselves to say, listen, we can use this product, this on-chain product, and sell to anybody around the world. I don't think you can do that right now. Like even me, if I try to buy Hashnotes USYC, which is actually a tokenized treasury, I can't because I'm a US citizen.
Yeah.
Right?
There are still restrictions. There's still restrictions. There's no doubt about that, right? But what we're seeing is with this new government, probably a lot of those restrictions are going to be easing up in the near future.
I hope so. It's crazy because it's like from a growth area perspective of the percentage growth, it's fascinating, but it's still really small scale.
That's what I tell people,
really small
right?
scale.
Every single time I keep telling people the same, right? I said, like, have you heard of Commonwealth Bank in Australia? No, never. Okay, just check what is the value of assets under management and then check the whole crypto space, right? And then people are like, oh, wow, okay. It's just, like, that's where we are at. So I think we need to, as you say, we need to keep reminding ourselves, like, wait, let's just come out of the bubble and just see a little bit the macro and understand where we're at in this journey.
Totally. And with every new innovation like this, there are always people on the frontier, like you and me, who are doing this, and they get very excited when they see more people joining you at the frontier. But we realistically need to move from, hey, there's 100 of us at the frontier to there's a billion of us at the frontier. So there's a long way to go. Seeing another sign of worlds colliding here was Brian Armstrong. He did a post on Farcaster back on 24th of February. And that's Brian Armstrong, the CEO of Coinbase. And he was asked, what are you most excited about for crypto in 2025? And he said, for me, in random order, 1, stablecoin payments, 2, prediction markets. We just talked about both, right?
Like we have, like, I know you're going to finish these, but on that list, a lot of the predictions that we have for 2025 on that episode that we did in December are in this list. Huh?
Oh, totally. Yeah, they're all on the list, so we got to go back and compare and contrast. Absolutely. The third one I thought was interesting, the rise of the self-custodial super apps, right? So taking that, the MetaMask wallet, taking the Coinbase non-custodial wallet, taking Phantom on Solana, right? And turning that into something that you can use a lot more regularly in terms of your daily financial life. There's a lot of room to grow there.
I don't know if you saw yesterday, Joseph Lubin put a post on X, actually in Spanish, funny enough. And basically what they're saying is, look, we're giving a more decentralized world, or we're giving power to a more decentralized world to the people like users of MetaMask in Brazil, Colombia, Mexico. They're going to be able to connect their whole Web3 life to the real world, paying directly from their crypto accounts in every place that accepts MasterCard. It's kind of heading the same direction, right? Like these wallets are going to end up being like a mega apps in a way, linked directly into payment rails.
Yep, absolutely. And Coinbase published something showing a map of the world where USDC, the USDC stablecoin, on the Base chain that Coinbase run, all the stores around the world with a little dot on the map where you can use USDC on Base to pay for things. So that's just through, I think, probably QR code scanning from your wallet, but making it so that when, you ever use that app Curve?
Curve, yeah, of course.
There's two.
The crypto one or the aggregator or which one?
The aggregator one, where you could select with each payment which card is used, right? Which credit card is used. And so that's what we need to see. And I saw something recently pop up on Curve, and I looked at it because they were talking about digital wallet wars. And I'm like, oh, are Curve going to like integrate crypto payment options here? They're not there yet. I think you could put like your Coinbase debit card into Curve and elect to pay that way through stablecoins. But you want that direct link between the MasterCard or Visa network direct to your crypto wallet, which would make things a heck of a lot easier. But we need the rest of the world to adapt
to happen, right? Like we're seeing, and it's interesting because in every chain we're seeing the same. We're seeing the same in Solana. I think there is a big push for that happening. So
definitely,
it'll be really interesting how it will just evolves.
It will, and just to run down the rest of this list quickly, that after decentralized social, there was Base, and obviously Base has been doing great as Coinbase is on-chain part of their business. Getting legislation passed in the US, progress is being made there. Bitcoin strategic reserve, we'll see how that plays out. It is moving. And then tokenized traditional securities, we're definitely seeing more of that happening. Getting capital formation on chain, like we just talked about, and then getting perpetual futures approved in the US. So I'll go back and tee this one up for the newsletter to talk about, okay, here's what Brian posted versus what we put up there for 2025.
It would be interesting. And I don't know if you saw the announcement, but I think Donald Trump is going to be, he's going to be speaking, I think so, at DAS today. Yes.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
It's the first time that a president from the United States is part of a crypto event.
Yeah, well, he did speak at the Bitcoin conference last year, but he wasn't the standing president.
Yeah, he wasn't.
At the
You're
time.
right. But this time he is speaking as the president of the United States, which is interesting. Yeah, I got the post from someone yesterday saying that it says breaking news: President Donald Trump will address DAS tomorrow. This is the first time a sitting president has addressed a crypto conference.
What if he'll be sitting as like a fireside chat or standing up at the podium? I'm sure he'll be standing at the podium.
There's no doubt about that.
He only likes to sit down when he's talking to Zelensky or Michal Martin, the Irish Taoiseach, in the White House with JD Vance at his side, wearing his shamrock socks. Did you see that?
Actually.
Yeah, JD Vance was speaking on St. Patrick's Day at the White House, and he let it be known, obviously wearing a green tie, which was nice, but also he was wearing these white socks with shamrocks on them. I was like, okay, thanks, pal. All right, moving swiftly along here. One that I thought you'd like, and probably a good place to round things out for today, Alejandro, is that why FIFA coin is a bad idea.
No,
Did you see this?
Actually, but I can tell you, I don't even need to read it.
Yeah, this was Pet Parisha, and shout out to Pet. He's an awesome dude. It's his Sporting Crypto newsletter, which I'll link into the show notes, and everybody can have a look at that there. But that this was, what's the guy's name who heads up FIFA? Infantino?
Gianni Infantino.
Do you know? Yeah, Infantino. And so apparently he's at the White House, I think during this crypto summit, and somehow got in there, and he's talking about FIFA coin, and that FIFA coin is something that could be used in the entire FIFA ecosystem, and so on and so on. And Pet basically stripped this one down and said, that's just a bad idea. Like, we don't need a coin like that when we have stable coins. And it's just so much easier for people to use stable coins if they're actually going to engage into an on-chain FIFA ecosystem, and kind of basically ripped it apart. So, props to Pet for doing that, because it is just a ridiculous
idea. It's just a way for them to just probably get more liquidity. And that's it. What else would you do with it? That is no more than a meme coin, if you ask me.
One of Pet's observations was that there's enough dodgy stuff happening in FIFA already that you don't need to introduce anything on chain. So just leave it alone. Do not launch FIFA coin. Please do not do that. I guess somebody had, after the announcement, had already gone out and launched a meme coin called FIFA coin, and it raised like 3 million quickly and then crashed. So
we don't need more of that, right? Like, the point was proven. There was a lot of experimentation that came out of it. Fantastic. I think it's time to move on.
Absolutely. Cool. Anything else you wanted to mention?
No, I think that's it. I'm really excited too. I'm not excited, but I just want to see what Mr. Trump is going to be saying at us today. Every single time that Donald Trump speaks, our industry, there are repercussions, positive or negative. And Pete, if you allow me, actually, I would like to just probably invite people in the Irish ecosystem to, like the people that are interested in the Solana ecosystem, to be part of our talent hub of Fridays. It happens in Dogpatch. And what we're doing is trying to give in a house to the Solana ecosystem here in Ireland, because it's important just to have access to it. Right?
Absolutely. No, it's great that's happening and definitely well needed. I was last engaged deeply into the Solana ecosystem about a year and a half ago at Breakpoint in Amsterdam, and met some great people there and full of wonderful energy and people building on Solana. So definitely a big fan of that.
So much talent, and just give a house to everybody here in Ireland. So it's good. We need to have you here on Fridays.
Absolutely. All right, Alejandro, thank you so much. We'll leave it there, pal, and we'll talk to you next week.
Sir.
That does it for this week, folks, and you can learn more about the topics we covered in the show notes on our website, moneyneversleeps.ie. Thanks to Alejandro Gutierrez for the awesome insights he shared in co-hosting this episode with me. If you like what you heard, please leave us a rating and a review on Spotify, Apple, or on moneyneversleeps.ie/rate. Thanks to Conan Brophy from Create Sound for mixing and editing this episode. Conan is an excellent media man to get in touch with when you're thinking about launching your own podcast. As for me, I'm an early stage startup investor in the next version of the internet, and I lead the Techstars Web3 Accelerator. There are plenty of links in the show notes on moneyneversleeps.ie on how to get in touch with us, so don't hesitate to reach out. Finally, till next time, thanks for listening. See ya!